All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WNR Body Transformation Podcast. And in today's podcast slash, what am I even saying? In today's podcast slash video, I'm going to be covering the topic of spices and its amazing benefits and different types of compounds that you can incorporate in your diet. So yeah, in case you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, there's nothing beneficial for me to, how do I say this? There's nothing beneficial for you to watch on the video. So if you want to like skip in and listen on podcast, or if you got like the special YouTube feature, and if you just want to like not look at the video, that's absolutely fine. I don't know, for some weird reason, if you're one of them who likes to watch video of me talking, knock yourself out. It just helps me with the views basically. So yeah, in today's podcast, I'm going to be covering the topic of spices, different types of compounds that you can probably incorporate in your diet and its amazing benefits. But I'm just going to let you know, before you think that, ooh, I'm going to like overdose on these particular types of spices or these particular types of compounds and not stick to a caloric deficit, or like not do cardio, or not do my steps and not exercise, like just get out of here, right? This shit's not going to work if you don't work. As simple as that. All of this is going to give you like a small little benefit on top of your already existing good habits. So let's probably say if you're on a fat loss phase, right? You're in a caloric deficit, it's probably going to give you a little bit of an extra edge. It's as simple as that, you know. Or if you're like in a muscle building phase, you're tracking your calories, you're progressively overloading, and how do I say this? You are doing your steps, you're sleeping on time, etc. You're doing all of the boring lifestyle things that a lot of people need to do. Then it's just gonna like provide you way more of a benefit from a muscle gaining, and not putting on body fat and holding on to your lean levels benefits slightly. So yeah, this is not a magic fix, right? So yeah, but before we just get started, please feel free to hit the like, share and subscribe button. It just helps me get to more people out there. And in case if you're wondering why the hell am I wearing these like red color glasses, I'm just gonna let you know, like, it's, what time is it? It's something like 10:45 p.m. in Dubai, and I was like, fuck it, let me just get this video out there because I've been procrastinating on preparing this video. So yeah, let's probably get started with the first particular compound, turmeric slash curcumin basically. Now, what is the mechanism? Anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, may reduce muscle damage and may also help in recovery. Long story short, adding in spices in your food is just going to increase the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory content of the food that you are already eating. So let's probably say you simply dropping body fat is gonna, if you're Mr. Chunky, or if you're Miss Chunky who goes on this rant like fat is beautiful, fat is comfortable, right? Regardless of whatever the fuck you want to say, regardless of whatever the fuck you want to think, right? Being fat, being chunky, being at a high body fat percentage is going to increase your inflammation levels. So when you simply drop body fat, right, by being in a caloric deficit, yes, a caloric deficit diet is an anti-inflammatory diet, by the way. Oh, you know, most of the people find it like hard to believe. But when you simply reduce your fat cells, you will reduce the inflammation inside your body, as a result of which inflammation levels go down. This is just like a bit of an addition on top of the boring stuff that you do. So if you may add in spices in your foods like turmeric or curcumin, right, it might increase the anti-inflammatory and antioxidant profile of the foods that you're already eating. Combine it with like combine with the whole food diet, minimally processed foods, more, how do I say this? Yeah, more colorful fruits and vegetables. That's the majority of the things. But there was a research which showed that like 8 weeks of like 500 milligrams curcumin supplementation reduced CRP and LDH levels basically. Now, what is CRP? CRP, C-reactive protein, is a protein that your liver produces. Please don't quote me on this. This is the research that I've done. Basically, it's basically a protein that your liver produces when your inflammation levels are high, when your body is in a state of alarm. LDH, lactate dehydrogenase, basically is something that your body produces when inflammation levels are high in the body as well, you know. So 8 weeks of curcumin supplementation on top of the boring stuff that you already do is going to have a synergistic effect basically. There was another study which actually showed in rugby players, right, that it increased range of motion. Now the mechanism of the pathway through which is actually quite unknown. I mean, it's known, but it's forgive me on this, but I couldn't understand the research and the literature, although I did try to. But one of the mechanisms is like if like rugby players already eat pretty healthy, they're on top of the nutrition, they're on top of the sleep, unless and until you're like a college rugby player who bangs sororities, right? Is a part of a fraternity house, drinks a lot of beer, and survives in Monsters, the energy drink, by the way, just saying, right? But if you're like a rugby player who is on top of the ship, basically, right? And if you supplement with curcumin or you add that in your diet, it might reduce muscle inflammation following a heavy lifting session, as a result of which the muscle recovery is going to be far more better, as a result of which the range of motion increments will be far more better. That could potentially be the case, or simply training but under load is just going to increase your range of motion, basically. Also, like, some research shows that 12-week supplementation reduces soreness, but simply resting on time is going to reduce soreness. So in case if you think, ooh, I'm going to add in curcumin inside my diet, like one of those, I'm going to take a lot of shots at people today on this in this video, like one of those matcha drinking green tea Pilates girl, right? Or so this is not going to be a magic fix. You got to get your shit together. You got to be tracking your calories and macros. You got to be eating a minimally processed diet. You got to be doing your steps, and you got to be at a low body fat percentage with a decent amount of muscle, and then stuff like this is going to come in handy. I'm going to repeat this again and again throughout this podcast, okay? Now, if you think like adding in a tablespoon of turmeric or curcumin inside your diet is going to fix all your problems, the answer is no, because the bioavailability of you just simply adding it in its natural form is going to be less. What do I mean by bioavailability? Let's say you have a tablespoon of turmeric. By the time it gets processed by your stomach or your liver, and the amount of the turmeric which is going to be available in your bloodstream to be used for its positive benefits would barely be anything. So hence you need to take it in its supplementational form. If you take it in the form of a pill, basically, that's going to be so concentrated, that's where you're going to see the benefits, basically. So in some cases, people with digestive issues, if you add that in, it might stress their gut, it might stress their liver, basically. So it helps, it doesn't replace. That's all I'm going to say, basically. Now, I hope that makes sense. Now, the next compound that we're going to move on to is fenugreek. But before we do that, I'm just going to have a sip of my peppermint tea, right? Because I'm on a GLP-1 right now, okay, since the past 4 weeks. So today was like a bit of a refeed day where my food was up, so I'm a bit bloated. So this is just going to help me with the digestion. That was good. All right. Fenugreek, right? Fenugreek, it improves insulin sensitivity mildly, boosts glucose uptake in muscle, basically. This is going to be pretty much expected, right? One of insulin's main feature is nutrient partitioning, and the leaner you are, I'm going to emphasize this point, the leaner you are, the less of a fat fuck you are, right? The more muscle you carry, the more insulin sensitive you're going to be. Your insulin sensitivity is going to be maximized between 8 to 15% body fat for men. You don't want to go on Google and go like and wait for the exact body fat. Long story short, if as a man you can see your abs, you're between 8 to 15%, right? If you can see your veins in your abs, you're probably less than 10%, more towards the 8% range. If you can see your abs but it's blurry and you can't see veins, you're about something like 10%, right? If you're within that range, you can see your abs, you are insulin sensitive, as simple as that, right? Now, insulin's main feature is to partition nutrients in the muscles and the liver, basically, so that under the right times, under the right stressors, under the right circumstances, you can begin to use the nutrients that you've eaten from your food to be used for fuel, as simple as that, right? So the thing about diabetics is they're insulin resistant, as a result of which the nutrients are not partitioned properly, as a result of which the nutrients are inside the bloodstream constantly, as a result of which they constantly feel lethargic, they're more prone to blindness, amputations, blah, 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 right? But in studies, basically, fenugreek, right, it increased GLUT4 translocation, basically. It improved glucose uptake. Now, what is GLUT4? GLUT4 is a specific type of protein that is... How do I say this? It's a specific type of protein that is more of like a gatekeeper that is either inside the cell or outside the cell, right? And the more GLUT4 you probably got, right, the more leaner you are, the better its nutrient partitioning, the better the nutrient partitioning effects of insulin, because GLUT4 can probably do its job. But you're gonna ask me this $1,000,000 question: how do I get insulin sensitive? Don't be a fat fuck. Put on some muscle, drop some body fat. How do you do that? You do this by being in a caloric deficit, a high protein intake, eating a minimally processed diet, training with weights 4 to 5 or 6 times per week, progressively overloading, and doing your steps. Yes, doing your steps, and sleeping on time, and taking some health-based supplements like fish oil, magnesium, etc. But the supplement bit is later, right? So adding in fenugreek inside your diet in the form of a supplement, because the bioavailability in the natural form, which comes from spices and foods, is peanuts, right? And it makes more sense for you to simply take it in the form of a particular supplement. So yeah, the other one, my personal favorite, right? I add a ton of this in my diet, not because of its insulin sensitivity benefits, but it just tastes fucking amazing. Cinnamon, right? Cinnamon functions a little bit like, how do I say this? Fenugreek, right? It may help regulate blood glucose levels. Let's probably say you have like a heavy dense meal, like a carb dense meal, or a meal which is rich in proteins, carbs, and fats. Basically, if you have like a calorie dense meal, immediately after the meal there's going to be like a bit of a glucose spike, right? Because the food's going to be broken down into glucose inside your bloodstream. Blood sugar levels go high. Now, if you're insulin sensitive, you're going to release insulin. There's going to be an insulin spike, and that's going to partition the nutrients in the right places. That is, in case if you're not a diabetic, basically. But, you know, cinnamon has shown to slightly regulate blood glucose levels, and it's also like, if you're insulin sensitive, it also helps you secrete more insulin. It also protects the beta cells of your pancreas. Beta cells of your pancreas stimulate insulin. The alpha cells, please don't quote me on this, forgive me on this, they secrete glucagon, right? So it does all of these things, but the effects are super modest. Basically, it doesn't overcome a bad diet. If you're like about 20% body fat, right? But as a female, I forgot to cover like what is the insulin sensitivity range. Anywhere between 12 to 22% body fat, where a female can see her abs or where they slightly diminish, is where the female is the healthiest. Obviously at a higher food intake, right, which comes after the caloric deficit fat loss phase ends. So spicing up your meals with cinnamon, right, putting cinnamon in your tea, putting cinnamon in your protein shake, putting cinnamon in your oatmeal. I mean, man, that's amazing, basically. But the effects are so small that if you think you're probably going to get insulin sensitive just by eating a ton of cinnamon, that's fucking rubbish, right? You gotta focus on the majors, basically, being in a caloric deficit, blah blah blah, which I'm not going to be repeating again. Berberine is basically taken from the bark of a plant. Please don't quote me on this. Let me just look on Google. Berberine, how it is made. Yeah, let me just check. Oh yeah. It's I was actually right on this, right? Berberine is basically like a bit of an alkaloid found in the roots and rhizomes of various plants, basically, right? Long story short, metformin, which is a drug taken by type 2 diabetics, right? It helps you stimulate more insulin, protects the beta cells of the pancreas, and it's made from the bark of a tree. But again, at the end of the day, it's processed in a way that it's a drug, basically. But things like berberine is a poor man's metformin, and it works in a similar fashion, but you know, it's got a smaller half-life. But let's probably say half-life. Let's probably say if you take like 500 milligrams of berberine early in the morning, and 3 hours later, it's gone out of your bloodstream. It's gone out of your body. So you probably need to take double or triple the amount of berberine to get the effects of one tablet of metformin, because metformin's half-life is 5 to 6 hours. Yeah, I might get my facts sometimes wrong, but please excuse me. But long story short, berberine works in a similar fashion like metformin, as I described the mechanism above, and it also stimulates lipid metabolism. What is lipid metabolism? In simple terms, it's just like you using fat for fuel, right? Because let's probably say if the carbs are stored inside the muscle, your body's got no other option than to tap into fat stores basically for, you know, strenuous activity or something like that. So, yeah. But the downside about berberine and drugs like metformin is, even though they activate AMPK, AMPK is a pathway which causes glucose uptake. It causes the carbs that you eat, which is inside your bloodstream after a particular meal, to be shuttled inside the muscle cells, right? That's the pathway of AMPK in short, in layman terms. But when AMPK is activated, it's going to have like an opposite effect on the mTOR pathway. mTOR pathway is one of the crucial pathways that actually stimulates muscle growth, right? So you don't want to go balls out on berberine basically. So yeah, but long story short, it is quite potent. So yeah, I mean, it's good for people with insulin resistance. It might also have like a slight hunger suppressing effect, but it's not a magic pill. That's all that I'm gonna be saying, you know. The other one, dairy, whey protein, you know, when you stack up like cinnamon, whey protein, etc. all together, it's gonna have like an amazing benefit. Whey protein is any sort of dairy protein basically, like in the form of whey or casein. Whey is like fast digesting, casein is slow digesting, right? Yeah, that is gonna have like, because dairy protein is a superior quality of protein basically. Whey protein's absorption rate is between 90 to 100%. Meat's absorption rate is anywhere between 60 to 80%. Vegan protein's absorption rate is, how do I say this, 10 to 20%. Not absorption rate, the amino acid content of the protein sources. So dairy, eggs have like a high amino acid profile, as a result of which a lot of it is going to be absorbed. Meat has high amino acids but not complete. So if you're a vegetarian, sadly, please don't be a vegetarian. If you want your kids to have, if you want your you want your son to be an estrogenic slug, right, with man boobs in the later years, make him a vegetarian. If you want your daughter to get her period early and cry excessively when Titanic is being played, right, you can get her to become a vegetarian as well. But if you're a vegetarian, right, you can combine things like eggs, dairy with the vegan sources, so that when one is like the lack of the amino acids inside the vegan sources is offset by the surplus of the amino acids inside the dairy sources. As simple as that, you know. So yeah, but I'm just going to reiterate the fact, like, this is not really a magic pill for you to, you know, abuse the spices, but like not really get your shit together basically, right? The other one, my personal favorite, cacao, cocoa, you know, it comes under the category of polyphenols. Polyphenols are also found in more colorful fruits and vegetables. If you can make your fruit salad, or if you can make your fruit and vegetable salad, and yes, eating your vegetables is actually quite important. If you can make it look like an LGBTQ flag, right? It's going to be amazing, because the polyphenol content and the nutrient content is going to be so high that you're going to have like a bit of a synergistic effect. Now, research has shown that things like cacao actually has shown to slightly reduce depression. It's also shown to improve your lipid markers. So, like HDL, LDL, right? That part of the cholesterol, right? High density lipoprotein needs to be high if you want a healthy lipid profile, and you want your LDL, which is low density lipoprotein, to be low, right? So cacao, including cacao basically inside your diet, has shown to reduce your LDL, which is actually such a fucking good sign, you know. But now you're probably gonna think, ooh, I'm gonna go and eat a lot of chocolate, because chocolate is actually a major source of, not a major source, it's one of the sources of like cacao. But dark chocolate, anything about something like 70%, the darker it is, 80, 90, 99% is actually a really, really good source of cacao. Or simply including cacao powder or cocoa powder inside your diet is going to be good, basically. The second thing is, it also has slight vasodilation effect, so it might improve increase the size of the blood vessel so that blood can pass all across your body with ease. Don't it's not a magic pill, sadly. So yeah, next, garlic. Garlic, what it does actually do? It's got sulfur compounds, other sulfur violates basically. Now the thing about garlic is it improves lipid markers by reducing LDL, just like the way cocoa does, but it also reduces TMAO buildup inside your gut. TMAO buildup is associated with atherosclerosis, which is involved in several heart diseases because it causes plaque buildup within your arteries. That's not a good thing, but that usually mainly happens when the person is a fat fuck, right? So if you're at a high body fat percentage, if you can't see your abs, if you got a bit of a belly, if you're soft around your midsection, adding a lot of garlic in your diet is not really going to do anything basically. The only drawback of it is some people might not really be able to stomach it. Some people might feel like, they can't tolerate the smell of it. But adding in something like 3 to 4 cloves of garlic inside your diet every day, I mean, why not? It's just going to make food delicious. So yeah, ginger as well, it helps in digestion. Sometimes what I mix is I put ginger in my tea, right? Not because of all of this, I just like ginger tea. It might also help reduce stress, but you'll need a decent amount of it, provided that you're on a caloric deficit. So yeah, don't expect huge benefits. They stack up with the boring bits. The other one, green tea. Green tea is fucking awesome. Green tea has got caffeine, it's got L-theanine, it's also got catechins basically. You also gotta realize if you like caffeine is good, but you gotta realize that caffeine is a drug, because of which people are addicted to their cups of coffee. Caffeine is a drug, regardless of what people like to think, right? But caffeine also helps in fat loss. If you're already in a caloric deficit, it might help in training performance, it might help in focus, it might help in productivity. So that's why coffee, pre-workouts, etc. Yeah, I mean, they're good, right? But things like green tea, it's got L-theanine inside it. L-theanine is associated with that calm focus that you particularly get. If you've seen the movie Limitless, where you're in that slight little flow state, and L-theanine provides that sort of a benefit. L-theanine also comes in supplementational forms. It can be found in matcha tea. It's found in green tea and other various types of teas basically, but the highest content is going to be found in green tea. That's what I'm going to say. So 3 cups of green tea, early morning, fasted, before your morning walk inside the sun. I mean, that's a win. That's a fucking win. So yeah, the second thing is, it's also got some antioxidant, anti-inflammatory benefits. But yeah, the effects are super moderate, and if you overdo it, if you have way too much green tea, it might interfere with your sleep, which is a big no-no. And then the other thing is it might also cause some digestive issues in some people. So you can get green tea extract without caffeine and L-theanine supplementation in supplementational form. So yeah, the other one, green peppers, green chili powder basically, capsaicin. I don't really know how to pronounce it. Capsaicin. Right? This promotes thermogenesis. What is thermogenesis? It basically improves your body temperature slightly by something like 2 to 5%, right? As a result of which, if your body temperature goes up, you simply spend more calories at rest. But the effects are so minimum that I wouldn't even bother, right? Now, what is the moral of the story? Before I give you the moral of the story, let me just have a sip of my peppermint tea. That's good. That's really good. Sorry. Yeah. And yes, I'm going to call out a lot of stereotypes, right? If you're that bro who eats bland food from Monday to Friday, and on Saturday and Sunday goes out and eats cheeseburgers, right? And if you think you're going to do all of this is not going to fix your shit. You need to be in a caloric deficit throughout the week. You need to be in a high protein intake. You got to be eating a whole food diet. You got to be training with weights. You got to be doing your steps. You got to be doing the lifestyle bits that you can't escape. I'm sorry to say this, right? And if this is pretty common amongst women, right? Don't call me sexist, but this is the trend that I've seen, right? They will and this is the trend that I've seen amongst my female clients as well. Yeah, there was one female client of mine who was, I'm not being able to lose weight, but I eat fruits, I eat healthy, right? No shit, because you're still eating like a fucking idiot, right? You on a calorie surplus. If you eat more calories than what you burn, you will put on weight. As simple as that, right? Regardless of if it comes from fruits or if it comes from gummy bears, right? So, or so like the cliche stereotype about women when it comes to eating is they'll have their unendless waterfall of red wine. They are dark chocolates because dark chocolate is healthy. They are matcha tea, right? They're spices. They are healthy nuts. When you ask them to control their fucking portions, no, right? You don't want to be either ends of the spectrum. You don't want to be that idiotic bro who like eats bland food and eats like a gym bro from Monday to Friday. Like, yo, bro, oats, broccoli, boiled chicken, and then cheeseburgers on Saturday and Sunday. I don't spice my meals, bro, because I'm hardcore. But at the same time, you don't want to be that Karen or that Sheila who can't control her fucking appetite, right? And binge eats on healthy nuts, dark chocolate, fruits, avoids protein. I don't know for what fucking reason she might avoid protein, because it makes her feel heavy, which is utterly stupid. Women need as much protein as men, right? Men and women both need protein, right? And you want to combine the two, right? But you can't escape the lifestyle bits. So yeah, people, if you found this beneficial, feel free to like, share, subscribe, drop a comment below for the algorithm. It just helps me reach out to more people out there, and let me know what you guys want me to cover next. So yeah, have a nice one, and speak to you guys soon. Adios, ciao.